name is Troels Volman, and in this video I'll be demonstrating our 8W brass section. The brass section contains over 60 brasses. We have 15 cembassos, 15 bass trombones, 30 French horns, and 10 trumpets, so it's a massive sounding section. The low notes are surreal and the high notes will cut through anything. Let me start out here by playing the short notes. In this video, obviously, I'll be covering the short notes, the long notes, and all the effects that are part of the Black Edition only. But let's just kick it off here with the staccato notes. I'm going to do one thing before we get started. If you look at this field, our mixer page, this is the Black Edition. Up here, you're going to see it says stereo field. If you want to expand the stereo field, you can click this knob up here. I'm going to go into something called EQ Presence. We made a variety of EQ presets in the library for each of the sections. This is our EQ for the brass. I'll try to play a little bit and then I'm going to turn up the EQ Presence while I play so you can hear the difference. I personally prefer it somewhat in between. Down here at this low setting, it's essentially like the orchestra was recorded. But once you get up here, you're going to start hearing a little more cut through in the mix. So you know it's bright, it has a little more cut through, sort of cuts through the cheese. Let me just try to improvise something different here. Alright, so right now we are only playing the mixed microphone position. Let me try to load the Decca and the far and the white microphone as well. And I'll try to play the same thing again here, but listen how bigger it gets when you really load the mics in. So the regular staccato is great for those sort of longer staccato type of notes, but we also have a staccatissimo here. It's one of my favorite patches. You can play really fast. We developed some new sample techniques that really allows you to play fast, even though it's a very large ensemble, but get that tightness in the mix. And one of the great things about 8W as well, and you could probably hear it here, is that you really got a strong range from the very high notes to the mid with the horns and all that, down to the bass trombones and the cembassos, but you can really play everything right on the keys for all the different sections. It's just great that way. Let me just try to play another thing here so you can check out the speed of it. Here's another cool feature. In the Black Edition, you got all the spot mics. Right now, I'm going to play a little phrase again, and this time I'm just going to isolate 2 spot mics for the bones and cembassos, and I'm going to mute the horns and trumpets, and then I'll reverse it afterwards. But try to check out, you get a little more definition and clarity on the spot mics for the bones and cembassos. Obviously, the horns and trumpets are further away on those mics, and then we'll reverse it once we play the other spot mics here. So the spot mics are great, particularly once you mix them with the other mics as well, to get a little more clarity in the mix. So it doesn't get big and Inception overwhelming all the time, but you can kind of put in the mix and dial in the mix that you want. Let me just try to reverse the process here so you can hear the microphones near the trumpets and the horns. And of course, when you have a 60-piece brass ensemble, you need some awesome maccatos. Let's check them out. We also did another take here with the muted maccatos, and it's kind of interesting because they're almost larger sounding than the regular maccatos because they have a little more sharpness in the tone. Check them out. And again, if you really want a super beefy mix, what I recommend is to take the mixed microphone, the Decca, the far, and the white, and then just bombard them all together in a lovely mix. And as I mentioned previously, one of the really powerful aspects about 8W is that you have this section all laid out, whether it's the marcatos here or the staccatos or staccatissimo. But let me try to play a quick example here where I'm blending the brass staccatissimo together with the fast spiccato on the strings. It's just great because the strings are lined out the same way. You can really just get that beautiful palette going. This is just me playing randomly on the keys, more or less at least. Alright, next up here is our sustains. Just as well as with the short notes, we really went big on the sustains. We did regular sustains, we did power sustains, which are a little more oomphy. We did power muted sustains as well, and then we have our arcs here, and they're all really, really great. I'm going to try to play similar things for all these different ones. You can get a feeling for how they sort of work together and how they're separate as well. Let me just kick it off here with our regular sustains. So, you know, they have a somewhat soft quality to them, almost choral in a way, even though it's way too big to be a choral ensemble. Let me try to play the power sustains here so you can compare it a little more. And again, one thing that's important is that you can see it says MW here on all the sustain patches. Obviously that means the mod wheel controls. I actually use more than the mod wheel. The mod wheel here controls the dynamics, but I highly encourage you to both use the dynamics and the expression as well, which is CC1 and CC11. You can actually link them here as well. If you want to do it together, they'll follow each other. I like to do them separately. You get a little more dynamic stuff in them. But let's check out these power sustains. Let me just try to play that again, but this time I'm going to turn all the main microphones on, so the mix, the Decca, the far, and the wide. And obviously this is black edition. If you were using the silver edition, you would only have access to the Decca and the far. I love the mix microphone, and I really think it goes well together with the other ones here if you really want that large, super large mix. Aren't they gorgeous? There's just such a volume in the bottom, like such a smooth fattiness down there, like fatty tuna. Let's try the power muted mod wheel here as well. So hopefully that gives you something to play with in the realm of sustained samples. We also sample arcs, and those are important if you really want a natural expression. I'm gonna try to play right now the soft arcs and then some harder arcs as well, because they really go well together. And again, you can also blend them with the sustained samples if you want, but as you're about to hear, I think it's enough just to use the arcs in their own. You know, sometimes you just strike pure sonic gold. For me, this patch, the longs, and even the short brass notes as well, actually, is sample gold. It's not that often they come by. You can go back to, like, you know, the Agnus Dei patch that's been overused in motion picture soundtracks, and I think this has a similar quality to it without further comparison, but there's just something that really works in these patches here. I'm also going to try a quick experiment here where I'm going to be playing the Fortissimo arc here, and then I'll add some of the 8W Black Edition synthesizers to augment it, so you're going to hear it with and without. It's kind of interesting what happens when you blend it in. It really helps augment the sound. So if it's not big enough, just add those synths and you will surely be flying. One of the unique parts of the 8W Black Edition is that it also contains a variety of effects. For the brasses, we have a fairly elaborate section actually of swoops and rips, bends and savage hits and savage phrases. And let me just try it. I'll just demonstrate all of them. You can do some really interesting things by combining them. And obviously all these guys also had 8 microphones. So if you really want to get into more Divisi type of effects, then you can use these guys here. Well, I shouldn't say Divisi actually, because Divisi in the case of 8W would mean a normally sized orchestra, but anyway. And let's wrap it up here by testing out the savage hits and the savage phrases. The savage articulation is something that goes across all the different parts of 8W, so you're going to find them both in our percussion and our woodwind and our strings, and obviously here in the brass as well. So you can really blend them together to get that crazy orchestra going where they're just going completely amok. So I think that's about it for the brasses, but let me just show you one more feature here. So obviously in the Black Edition, you have all the microphones, and in the Silver Edition, you got the Decca and the Far. But another aspect of the library is our options page here. We have a reverb setting here, and we have a lot of beautiful reverbs that you can choose between. But this matrix here allows you actually to place the orchestra. So if you want, let's say the brass is a little further in the back, you can do that as well. So it's sort of a 3D representation of the room. So not only can you use the microphones, but you can also use this part here to really start and go in to dial in the sound. So hopefully allowing you to dial in the perfect sound by combining all the microphone positions and the placement here as well to get the most glamorous mix ever done of a 240-piece orchestra. But I could go on all day long about the wonders of 8 Wonder. Let me just wrap it up here. My name is Troels Volman. This was 8W Black Edition.